So much to unpack in WandaVision episode 5, and I'm pretty sure heads are about to pop with all of these theories, but we're in it now, and spoiler warning because things are getting wild. What's up, y'all? I'm Kendall with Normies to Nerds. Like and subscribe for more videos. This episode has so much to dive into, and when we think we're getting closer to understanding what is going on with this show, we get smacked in the face with more things to poke holes into our theories. So I'm going to do my best to break all of this down and then give you guys some theories based on the evidence that we've seen this week. The episode starts off with a crying Billy and Tommy. Doing what babies do, they're crying uncontrollably, and Wanda wants to use some magic, so she sends Vision off before trying to do that to make the babies go to sleep. But this time, her magic isn't working. She tries to put them to sleep again and again, but in baby fashion, they just start laughing at her. Now, the only other time that we see Wanda not being able to take control of something is in episode 3 with the stork. And I think that could be a hint that the stork and the kids could come from the same source, maybe Mephisto or an entity like Mephisto that is behind all of that. But anyway, back to the show, right on cue.
Hiya, kids!
Now, this continues the trope of Agnes barging in, but in this episode, her nosiness in barging in seems a bit more aggressive than the past episode. And then she says,
And I heard your new little bundles of joy were on a sleep strike.
Oh, who told you that?
My ears.
At first I'm thinking she's referring to Herb. Herb seems to be her spy, always trimming those hedges, but based on how she burst in the house with the doghouse later this episode, I'm thinking that she's got an ear to the door or something and just listening to every word that's being said. And that is a key point to come back to later. But yeah, then Agnes wasted no time trying to get to the babies, and Vision freaks out like a normal first-time parent and stops Agnes. Then notice how the camera starts to pan as Agnes asks Wanda.
Do you want me to take that again?
I think that's a clear sign that we're stepping away from the WandaVision show that's being sent out. It seems as if Agnes and Wanda have an understanding that we have not been made aware of, and a sign that Wanda cannot control Agnes in any way, but we'll get back to that later as well. Now, Wanda and Vision go off to talk to the side, and then all of a sudden things get quiet. They go to check on the kids and they're gone, and I'm thinking, my God, did Agnes really just step in here and steal the kids like that? But then they turn around and we see a 5-year-old Billy and Tommy, and we later see their age in the episode intro. And this is when Agnes hits us with this.
Kids. Can't control them.
And I think that could be a small explanation why we do not see any other kids in Westview, but there was a lot of information packed in there right before we get into the intro.
Hopeless feeling, like drowning. It was grief.
Now, this is the first sign that people in there are actually being tortured, and that Monica was not just acting, same with almost everyone there. Then we see that she doesn't register anything on their test, and I think that could be a hint at her future as Photon. Now, as Jimmy Woo is starting to give his briefing, you can see how Hayward is starting to show his hostility towards Wanda and starts going back and forth with Monica until he drops these bombs on what exactly Wanda could be doing to those folks in Westview.
She's holding thousands of people hostage.
Now, real quick, I love the details that we get from Wanda's power list here, but one that stood out to me was neuroelectric interfacing, and that is something that I believe has to do with her ability to warp reality, but just don't quote me on that. But as Hayward explains, Wanda is controlling thousands of people. That has got to be a hell of a strain on Wanda's brain. Then we get to a clip that Hayward just mysteriously finds 9 days later after studying what's going on with Wanda in this bubble here. We see Wanda go in and get Vision's corpse from Sword. Now, that is a scene that I'm really looking forward to see, and judging from some trailer footage, it looks like we just might. I wonder what they're doing to Vision though when she walks in there to take the corpse. Hayward mentions Vision's last wish to not be used as a weapon, but it seems like Sword is taking Vision's corpse and trying to figure out what they can do with it and what pieces they can do with it to their advantage. Now, we get to the kids hiding Sparky, and that's a reference to Vision's dogs from the comics. And everything about this dog says Agnes to me. Now, at this point, I'm really starting to think that Agnes is somewhat like the show's producer and making it go in the direction that she wants it to, even if Wanda is not aware of it. Now, I think a clear sign of that is this dog. I think that she clearly puts the dog in the line of sight of Billy and Tommy, and then is on cue with that doghouse as they're talking about it. The kids age up right in front of Agnes as well to be able to keep the dog. So yeah, I think she's definitely getting what she wants here. So then we jump out of the hex. We start to see just exactly who Monica is as she's starting to reveal some of her greatness right before our eyes. She comes up with 3 brilliant moments. One, where she forms a plan to break into the hex without being impacted. The second one is that when she realizes Wanda is actually changing the reality on objects and not just projecting it. And then moment number 3 is when she comes up with a plan to send in the drone. Then we get the email scene. I actually think this email going through is a preview of Monica's drone plan working. But we get this creepy scene from Norm and Vision.
It hurts so much. Just make her stop. Just make her stop!
In a more terrifying way than Monica's, Norm confirms that someone is mind controlling them. I say someone because Monica definitely knew it was Wanda and what Wanda was doing, but Norm just says her, which could possibly to me be Agnes. Now we get more proof that Wanda has no reign or control over the kids. She tries to lie to them about Vision, but they just ain't buying it. Then Wanda hears the drone outside and notices that Sparky actually notices it first, and that does nothing but pisses Wanda off. And this is when shit gets real. And notice Wanda has on her regular clothes and is speaking in her Sokovian accent. Now I think Monica actually connects with Wanda here and helps Wanda realize that Monica does not mean her any harm and that she's actually here to help her. But Wanda lays all of it on the line and says, "You can't help me get what I want," and tells Sword to piss off. Then she mind controls everyone and points their guns at Hayward. I think this is the first time that we see her actually mind control people like this, and unlike Age of Ultron, she is actually pulling the strings instead of planting a vision inside of people's heads. Again, it is the opposite time of day inside the hex than it is outside. Right back into the hex, the family finds the dog dead, and I definitely believe that Agnes did that shit to age the kids up. But then the kids start telling Wanda to bring him back because they know what Wanda can do, and I think it's funny to see Vision's reaction as he's walking up and he's hearing the kids say bring him back. But I think Agnes's plan is actually working. The kids look at each other to start trying to age themselves up again, but in true parent fashion, Wanda hits them with a contradictory statement.
We can't reverse death, no matter how sad it makes us.
And to me, that's even more confirmation that Vision is actually dead. Now we fast forward to the end of the day, and Vision has just all out had it. And notice he says that he thought that Wanda was doing all of this subconsciously at first, but now that he knows that she knows what she's doing and is aware of what's happening. And then Wanda tries to brush it off and end the show, but Vision is not having it. He lays it all out, makes a boom as he walks out of the kitchen.
Norm has a family! Wanda has a family!
And then we get this scene.
For what? I can't remember my life before Westview. I don't know who I am. I'm scared.
So Wanda breaks down and you can see the mental strain in her head and points out that there's no way that she feels like she could be doing everything, including the doorbell that starts ringing. At first, I'm starting to think that it's Agnes at the door as usual until...
Long lost bro, get to squeeze his stinking sister to death or what?
It's Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe. Like him for sure. Nothing like the MCU version. So let's put a bow on this big box here with some theories. First, I want to give some quick notes on Monica. Shout out to Tiana Paris. I mean, she is absolutely killing this role here. And not just for myself, but I think for a lot of Marvel fans, Monica Rambeau is quickly becoming a favorite here. Now, it's interesting to see what's going on between her and Captain Marvel here, especially since Carol is the first voice we hear when the blip is happening in episode 3. And I think Hayward is going to lose his job at some point in this series, and Monica will take over as director of SWORD, as well as reveal herself as Photon. We now know clearly that Wanda cannot control the kids, Vision, or Agnes, and Agnes' sign that she can't be controlled is when she tells Wanda let's run it from the top earlier in the episode. I was expecting to see Wanda rewind what happened as she usually does, but in this case, I don't think she can because she cannot control Agnes in that spell, like I said with the kids. But that furthers my thoughts that Agnes is in on it and has an agenda to take Tommy and Billy. And that really shows with her aggressiveness now and how she comes in on cue. If not for Vision or Wanda, she actually might have aged the kids up to be teenagers in this one episode. I honestly think that she is at the door at this point, or has something inside of the house that is listening to what's happening between Wanda and Vision. And I think that it is her aging up the kids and not the kids aging themselves up. And if the kids are doing it, she's making it happen through her story plots. And I think we also get indication that Vision is clearly dead outside of the Hex. I think Wanda might have made a deal with Mephisto, or maybe even Agnes at this point, to get Vision's consciousness to be reanimated in some form. But I do not think that that is Vision's corpse that we see. I still think that is Wu's missing person that is playing the role of Vision right now. And that's why he can remember his former life. And I think that Vision will just tag along in the next episode before waking everyone up. Now, we don't really get much new information on Wanda in this episode, but it's clear that she is suffering a major mental breakdown. She knows what's going on, but it's not clear about everything that's happening or the real plan behind it. In some way, I think she's being played, but it's definitely a villain at this point who is at the peak of her powers. Now let's talk Pietro Quicksilver being played by Evan Peters from the X-Men universe. Now, according to Logan, I believe all of the mutants had died after an event with Professor X, but Quicksilver has always been one of my favorite X-Men in those movies. But how did he get here? The first clue is Wanda saying that she's not doing this, and in a typical scene, knocking at the door would mean Agnes. But I think Agnes did have something to do with this. As I said earlier, I think it's possible that Agnes is listening at the door, or even has something inside of the house that is hearing everything. And when Wanda says that she misses Pietro and it makes her sad that he's not here, Agnes capitalizes on that. And I think in the midst of the Wanda and Vision argument, Agnes does what she has to do, goes to another universe to find Pietro to make Wanda happy and divert the attention. And with J. Jonah Jameson showing up 8 months later in Spider-Man Far From Home, I think Pietro could be the first sign of the multiverse falling into madness. But I do think that Vision and Pietro will have an interesting dynamic going forward. In the next episode, if we want to use the Full House analogy, I think that Pietro would have a role like Uncle Jesse, and Vision would have a role as Danny. But when Pietro realizes what's happening, I wonder, what team will he be on? Will he be Team Vision or Wanda? Now, some even think that Pietro might not even be Pietro, but Mephisto in disguise. But let me know what you think and whose side you think Pietro will be on as he moves forward and figures out what's going on inside of this hex. Let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to highlight my favorite one in the next video. But as always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one as we take this journey from normies to nerds.